Okay. All right, let's get into qualification. So the topic for today's video is lead qualification. I'm going to turn you guys, if you pay attention to this entire video, at the end of this video, you will be a master at qualifying leads and spotting leads that are qualified by the end of this video. So let's get into it. I had to burp. Ignore that. Okay. So they're really they're really four qualifying factors that we use to qualify a lead. Okay. And the qualifying factors are M, C, T, P. M standing for motivation, C standing for condition, T standing for time frame, and P standing for price. Those are the four qualifying factors we pay attention to. However, there are three more important qualifying factors. All qualifying factors are not built the same. However, three out of the four are the most important, which are motivation, condition, and price. Okay. How do I, oh my God, Wally, oh, team leader, how do I spot a qualified lead? To spot a qualified lead, out of the three motivating factors, two of them need to check the box. Two out of the three most important qualification factors need to check the box. Motivation need to check the box. Condition need to check the box out of three. Or motivation and price. Or price and condition. Or condition and motivation. Okay? At least two out of these three qualifying factors need to check the box for a lead to be qualified. For example, John, what got you wanting to sell? Oh, I want to sell because you called me. Motivation X'd out. That's a poor motivation. Now, guys, think about it. I want you to put yourself, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what is a real motivation. If I'm telling you what's a real motivation, I'm disregarding the fact that you're a human being. Just so you guys know, today in 2024, they are AI devices. They are robots that we can actually pay for. They'll make cold calls and actually, read the scripts to sellers. The reason why we create a human connection is because there's something the human mind can do that a robot cannot do. And I do not want to, treat you guys like a robot. I want to treat you guys like a real human being and give you the benefit to actually be a human on the phone. Okay. So with that being said, I'm not going to give you a list of what's a real motivation because there could be a million motivation why a seller wants to sell. However, there are patterns in motivation types. For example, put yourself in a seller's shoes. If I'm going to decide to sell my house, does I want to sell because you called me just now? Does it sound like a serious motivation? It doesn't. Okay, John, what got you wanting to sell? Well, I've really been thinking about selling for a while now because I lost my. I'm not going to use that example. I don't want to lose my wife because, I'm gonna give you an example. So let's say John, I call John. John, why are you looking to sell? John says, the reason why I'm looking to sell is because, my wife divorced me and now the house is all mine. I can't afford a mortgage payment myself anymore. It's too much money. I just want to be done. I want to sell the property. Or, well, this property used to be my mother. She passed away. So we decided to sell the property because we don't want the property. Or the property's been vacant for a while and it's not making us any money. There's no something that sound like it makes sense for this person to sell. If you ask a seller why do you want to sell, and they can't give you an answer that makes sense, motivation checks is off the table. Their motivation is crossed, not good. It's off the table. Does that mean that lead is disqualified? No, because we have two out of three qualification factors that need to be checked. If the motivation is poor, if the motivation doesn't sound reasonable, if the motivation is just, it doesn't make any sense. Like, dude, you want to sell because you want to sell if you can get the right price. That's not a motivated seller. You want to sell if the numbers make sense. That's not a motivated seller. You want to sell because I called you. That's not a motivated seller. You want to sell because you feel like selling. That's not a motivated seller. You want to sell because you don't need the property. That's a motivated seller. You want to sell because you have to sell. What the seller is saying is sounding like the seller have to sell. I know I'm hammering over this over and over again, but there's a reason why I want to pass the message across. Okay? If the seller motivation does not make sense, it fails motivation qualification. If the motivation sounds like something you can feel in your heart and it sounds genuine, it passes motivation qualification. Now, let's go to condition. If the condition of the property, oh my God, my property does not need any sort of repair, my property is in a great condition, all you have to do is just take a feather and dust the spider web, dust the cobweb. What type of nonsense is that? That is not what we are looking for. We are looking for property that the roof is falling apart. We are looking for properties that need a lot of work. That is what we are looking for. Okay? If a seller tells you my property is an 8 out of 10, my property is a 9 out of 10, my property is a 10 out of 10, not a lead. It could be a lead if the motivation is good. It could be a lead if the price is great. But condition wise, X failed condition motivation. Okay? The condition needs to be a 1 out of 10, negative 5 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, and maybe 7 out of 10. Anything below a 7 out of 10 is a lead. Condition wise, it's qualified. Anything below a 7 out of 10, condition wise, it's qualified. I say it one more time. Anything below a 7 out of 10, condition wise, it's qualified. Now, price wise, if a seller tells you, okay, the price for my property is $100,000, and on Redfin, the property is worth $100,000, and the seller wants $100,000. Condition wise, is the property qualified? I'm sorry. Price wise, is the property qualified? Not really. Okay. We need to check something else, which is the comp, the comparable of the market. I showed you guys comparable in the previous video. Okay. Now let me walk you guys. I already walked you guys through already in the previous video. When it comes to checking price wise, we're looking at the Redfin estimates. Let me open up a random property really quick for you guys. Redfin. Okay, here we go. I like to use Redfin because some people would say I am very biased. I am biased. I use Redfin because Redfin has the most accurate data. Okay. Now, this is a perfect example right here. If this seller says, I call this guy and this guy tells me my property is a 6 out of 10. Okay, John, tell me, what's your asking price? I would like to get $109,000 for my property. Condition wise, this property conditionally, price wise, it conditionally qualifies if the ARV, if the comparables in the market accept this as a good price. Now let's go look at the comparable. The comparable in the market is $77,000 up to $139,000. How close are we to the lowest? We're a little bit close. We're like $30,000 different from the lowest, and we're like $40,000 different from the highest price. What are we more closer to? Number wise, we're about actually if the seller wants 100K and the property is like 109, right? And the seller tells you they want, okay, if the property is 109, the seller tells you they want $100,000. You check here to the low end of the price, the difference is $23,000. To the high end, it's about $40,000. It's more closer to the low end. So this lead is qualified. Okay. Price wise, it qualifies. Okay, we need two qualification. Price wise, it qualifies. If this seller says they want 150, 150, and the highest best property sold in our area is 139, load up the cannon. Price wise, the lead does not qualify. But that doesn't mean that lead is completely disqualified. If the condition is great and the motivation is great, meaning I want to sell because I want to get rid of this property, I really don't want the property anymore. I want to sell because anything that sounds like pain, motivation, pain. Is it painful for them to keep this property? If it sounds like it, that's good. Okay? Condition, the condition is like a 5 out of 10. It's not the greatest condition. Motivation checks out. The condition checks out. The only thing is the price does not checks out, but at least 2 out of 3 checks out. We have a really solid seller right there. Boom. Price wise, it qualifies. Now, I'm going to go over it one more time. If this seller, let me use a different property. Let me use this one. Okay, so this property, uh, let me use a property that I haven't sold. Redfin, this one. All right, so this property is worth $87,000. If the seller tells us, oh, I want $87,000 for my property, the seller is asking exactly what the price is on Redfin. That's what they're asking for. Conditionally, it qualifies. No, no, no. Conditionally, it qualifies. Conditionally, because they're asking around the Redfin. If the seller says they want $50,000, automatically price wise we qualify. If the seller says they want $10,000, automatically price wise they qualify. If the seller says they want 60K, they want 70K, price wise they qualify. Okay, but in this case, let's pretend the seller said they want $95,000 for their property. Okay, it's more than the Redfin estimates. Does it qualifies? Not really, because the seller wants way too much. I think they want way too much. They want 95. But is it too much? I don't know. I need to go check. I need to go and check the comps. I'm gonna go down. The seller want 95. How close is 95 to 77? It's about 20K difference. How far away is it from 127? It's about a $30,000 difference. 95 is closer to $77,000. So price wise, it qualifies because 95 is closer. If this seller tells me they want $100,000 compared to 77,000, it's about a $23,000 difference. Now, compared to 127, it's a $27,000 difference. It still qualifies. Now, if the seller tells me they want $120,000 for the property, negative, no bueno. Okay. So, condition wise, if price wise, if the seller tells us they want exactly what the Redfin estimate is, conditionally qualifies. If they want a little bit higher or a lot higher, they're almost not qualified. But just so we confirm, we want to do the number difference. How will I handle this with a seller? John, 1 second. Mr. Seller, just 1 second. Let me check something real quick. Okay. Da 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 da. Okay, okay, okay. Good, good. Number wise, not a problem. Okay, I'll proceed. Uh, I want 120. 127 is the best property. Okay, price wise is an issue. Is this lead qualified based on condition? No. Is it qualified based on motivation? Yes. I need one more thing to qualify. Price, I can change. Property condition, I can't change. Okay, motivation, I can't change. Price is the only thing that we can persuade the seller on. We can't persuade the seller on their motivation. We can't persuade them on their condition of the property. Just price is the only thing we can persuade them on. So if between price and the condition of the property, only one checks out, we can persuade them a little bit to bring their price to realistic range. Okay, but that's that. Let's go back to our drawing board. There are four type of sellers. Okay, when you're speaking with your sellers, you need to understand this dynamic of who you're speaking with. There's number one, the time wasters. These are sellers that pretend like they are sellers, but they're not sellers. They're just wasting your time. These are the people that tell you they want $1 million for their property, and your property is only worth $10,000 or $100,000. These are people that gonna ask you stupid questions. Oh, what's your name? Where are you calling from? How old are you? Like, why are you asking me this stuff? It's not needed. Do you want to sell your property? Yes or no? If a seller is not responding to your questions the way they should be, if they're interrogating you, if they're saying not sensible things, those are time wasters. Unsure sellers, as the name implies, these are sellers that want to sell, but they don't know if they want to sell. Okay, they're really confused. A seller like this, you want to get the motivation factors and you want to convince them a little bit. John, it sounds like you want to sell, but at the same time, it sounds like you don't want to sell. I'm really curious though. Is there anything if we're able to like make things work out for you, will it help you make the decision of selling further? You can ignore all of that stuff, but time wasters are completely disqualified. Onshore sellers, They're type of sellers that are not sure of what they want to do, but we still need their qualification to make sense. Now, a lot of sellers that are unsure, they would only give you one qualification, which is the motivation and sometime condition and sometime price. Um, yeah, unsure sellers, they are okay. Just so you know, you could push unsure sellers, but the chances of unsure sellers actually closing are very low because they're not the best, okay? But you can always push them. It's just good for you to know what you're speaking with. The third type of sellers are conditional sellers. Conditional sellers are sellers that if the numbers make sense, I will sell my property. And the numbers make sense and the condition makes sense. Those are conditional sellers. Or I would only sell my property if everything works out. They're not the most motivated. They're not desperate to sell, but they will sell if everything is good. Those are conditional sellers. Motivated sellers are the people you say, John, do you want to sell? They say, yes, I want to sell. John, why do you want to sell? Because I'm desperate. Why do you want to sell? Because I needed the money. Why do you want to sell? Because I can't deal with the property anymore. I want to get rid of the property. Oh, what's your asking price? I don't care. Just give me whatever you're going to give me for the property. I don't have an asking price. Um, it's me being a little bit exaggerative, but motivated sellers are sellers that you hear them on the phone and you feel like this lady is going to close. They answer all your questions the right way. They don't bully you on the phone. They don't curse. They're not a bitch. They're pretty calm. They answer your question, and when you listen to them, they sound motivated. When you ask them when would you like to close, they said as soon as possible. I can close yesterday. You ask them for the price of their property. They tell you below what Redfin says the property is worth. They tell you the condition of the property, very detailed. They tell you their motivation. That's a motivated seller. Conditional sellers, most of them, only two would check. All four boxes will not check. Two boxes will check most of the time. They will tell you if everything goes well, I will sell my property. They're not desperate to sell, but they will sell under the right terms. Unsure sellers, they're not even sure if they want to sell or not. And I think I might sell next year. I think I might sell I don't know yet. I'm not really sure if I want to sell the property. That's not a good lead, to be honest. If a seller said, I'm not sure if I want to sell, I don't know. Maybe I'll sell next year. I'm not ready to sell yet. I'm still thinking about it. Um, when you hear that, the seller is unsure. I actually take back what I said earlier, okay, about unsure sellers. Unsure sellers are not the sellers that um they're pretty much sellers that they're not sure about what they want to do. When a seller tells you, I want to sell, but they don't know the condition of the property, they don't know the price of the property, that is fine. It depends on the type of seller you're speaking with, okay? In the next call, I'm going to show you a different type. I'm going to walk you guys through a different lead type so you can understand the leads you're speaking with. But that's it for this training. If you have any question, leave it in the comments.